our economy may be in for some shuddering changes in the next few years. As we've talked about AI for the last 20, 30 years, it's suddenly becoming a reality that you can use it even if you're someone who hasn't paid for the rights to it, even if you're just a student. So it's becoming much more concerning. But the other thing that comes with it is that for years and years and years, we've gotten better at making the things that we need to survive, right? It's much easier to get food. It's much easier to get transportation. It's much easier to build a house than it was 100 years ago. So theoretically, the cost for those things should also go down if it's easier. But because we try and keep people employed, the cost stagnates. And I mean, there's many different reasons for this, and I won't pretend to know all of them. But it is an issue because if the cost stagnates, but wages are fluctuating or wages are not keeping pace with inflation, then we struggle to afford our basic needs, which should not be a problem. When the world has more abundance, we should not be struggling to meet our basic needs, at least not more than we were in the past. And depending on where you're looking in the world, it's a very different story. But the point is that we should be able to afford the things that we need. And one of the things that's about to happen is we'll see many jobs replaced by AI, whether it be copywriting in terms of like just writing things for advertisements, or it can be education, right? We can have AI voice to text teachers, or we can have AI created curriculums. There are many different things you'll see. You might even see like the person running the gas station is just replaced by a robot that just like scans the item. I mean, that's literally what self-checkout is, and they didn't even need AI. It scans the item and you pay for it. And so we'll start seeing more and more of these jobs replaced, especially manufacturing, especially in those fields where they're producing our bare minimum things. Construction can be automated. Food production can definitely be automated. And a lot of farmers already use automation technology like TensorFlow. So, and as well as food packaging companies, that's very important, right? How do you think they cut all of the Lay's chips? I mean, it's not like someone's going in by hand, although there are some companies that do things like that. At the end of the day, we are seeing jobs replaced. We are seeing that we cannot afford the cost of living and something's got to meet in the middle. And what is more than likely going to happen is that either certain resources are made free, well, a couple of things. Certain resources are made free or funded by governments, like agricultural production may become something that's taken over by the government, which sounds insane, but then we think about other things that have happened like this. For example, when Amtrak was basically created by the US in 1971, prior to that, it was only private rail companies. And then the US nationalized their rail system, and granted the quality is terrible, but it is now an option to be improved. And there are plenty of other things to talk about when it comes to how do we set the standards for a system like that. But the goal here is that people are able to afford things and they're not having to work extra jobs, especially as jobs start to disappear, right? Like there are new industries being created, but a fundamental difference between the industries today and the ones maybe 100, 200 years ago is these are not nearly as necessary, especially for our survival, as the ones that used to exist. So when you go and you become someone who works at a desk job, there's a very good chance that that job is not needed for anyone's survival on planet Earth. And that's telling, because it should not be that difficult that you have to work that job, that you have to hate that job, just so you can afford a thing that you should be able to afford anyways, because it's already being produced in mass quantity and fairly easily. So at the end of the day, we will probably see some sort of subsidy, like on food, on gas, in the same way that farmers see some subsidies from the government for things that have become too easy to produce, and now they have a surplus of it. But we should also be raising our expectations for that, because if we let ourselves think that we just have to keep pace with the economy, you just have to work harder, you just have to use hustle culture. The only way that you can survive is if you make it, if you drop ship, if you create your own business. Like these are unrealistic things. The majority of people are not going to do them. And they only work when there's someone to mooch off of, right? If everyone in the world drop ships, no one's making a profit. So I mean, that's something we have to consider, is that going forwards, and a lot of this is in the power of the people, the people that the people elect, and the decisions that those people make on referendums and on laws will strongly affect the amount of money that's in every American and every other person's pocket in the coming years. But it's something to keep an eye out for, because I, much like most other Americans, would not want to see anybody I know be broke, be poor, or be unable to afford the things that they need to get by. This is our responsibility as a society, is to make decisions that benefit all of us. Whether or not we agree with the other people that they're benefiting, whether or not we like the politicians that are making them, These are things that are necessary. Because like a tsunami hitting, you don't get to plan out for it in advance. It comes and it wipes you out. And you can choose to find higher ground, or you can yell at the tsunami and drown. And we are seeing the tsunami in the not too far distance as AI comes, not for our jobs in a malicious way, but simply as the pace of development grows, right? The sharecropper was replaced by the tractor. Can they complain? Yes. But is there anyone to take up argument with? Not really. It's just the pace of innovation. But what we can do is mitigate that by training people for new jobs, by making policies that reflect the things that people need, including getting basic resources. So that's sort of my 2 cents worth. I'd like to touch on this topic a lot more, um, but it is something for us to all start thinking about. Is every time we go write something into ChatGPT, every time we see a Facebook ad that's driven by AI based on our past traffic, like these are things that are all driven by automation. Every time you see a packaged Lay's chip, no one is going through and hand pressing the top of that close. It's done in a factory. And automation is coming for all of us. And we need to decide as a society where our breaking point is in terms of creatives, in terms of where we'd like to see humans in service, and in terms of what it would actually take for someone to earn a living wage. Because we need to guarantee that for everybody. And it's not just something for the people who have managed to keep their jobs longer than those who were replaced by automation. So think about it. And I'll see you in the next one.